My son told me the business was dying for 15 years. Then I found the ledger he buried. My name is Arthur Donovan. I am 67 years old. For 41 years, I have owned and operated Donovan Fine Woodworking on King Street in Charleston, South Carolina. My father, Seamus Donovan, opened a shop in 1962 with a handsaw, a hammer, and a sign he painted himself. The letters were crooked. The paint dripped. He hung it anyway. He said, "Arthur, perfection is for people who are afraid to start." I was 7. I believed him. I have believed him every day since. I took over in 1984. Dad died that spring. Heart attack. He was in the workshop when it happened, sanding a table. He always said he wanted to die doing something useful. He got his wish. I found him with his hand still on the plane. The table was smooth as glass. I finished it. I delivered it. I did not tell the client that my father's last work was on their dining room surface. Some things are between a craftsman and his wood. Some griefs are too heavy for invoices. My son, Matthew, joined me in 2009. Fresh out of the University of South Carolina with an MBA he was very proud of and a handshake he had practiced in the mirror. He came into the workshop on his first day wearing a suit. Navy blue, Italian wool. Cost more than my first 3 months of rent on this shop. I told him to change. He said, "Dad, I am not here to build. I am here to grow the brand." I did not know what that meant. I still do not. But he was my son, and Helen was so happy to see him in the family business that she cried. She made a cake. Chocolate. Matthew took one bite and said he was watching his carbs. Helen laughed. I did not. Helen, my wife. She died in 2015. Breast cancer. 11 months from diagnosis to the morning she stopped breathing in our bedroom with the windows open because she loved the smell of jasmine. She was the bookkeeper, not formally. She just had a gift for numbers. She could look at a column of figures and tell you where the mistake was before you finished adding. She kept the ledger in a green cloth-bound journal she bought at Woolworth's in 1987. Every sale, every expense, every gallon of varnish and pound of brass hardware. She wrote in pencil first, then went over it in ink on Sundays while I sharpened chisels in the workshop and listened to her hum hymns she learned as a child. The journal sat in the bottom drawer of her desk, which became my desk after she died, which became Matthew's desk when he took over operations in 2012. I never opened that drawer after Helen passed. Matthew said he would digitize everything. He said paper was for museums. I believed him. I stayed in the workshop. That was my place. Sawdust in my hair. Sawdust in my coffee. The smell of oak and walnut and cherry. The sound of a plane biting in a grain. The feel of a dovetail joint sliding home with that soft click that tells you it will hold for 100 years. Matthew handled the office, the orders, the accounts, the big picture. I handled the wood. It seemed like a fair division. A father builds. I saw my nudge. That is how it is supposed to work. That is what Helen said the night before she died. We were on the porch. She was wrapped in a blanket even though it was July. She said, "Let him find his place, Arthur. He is not you. He does not need to be. But watch him. Watch him close." I said, "Helen, he is our son." She looked at me with eyes that were already fading. "That is why I'm telling you to watch him." She was wrong. Not about letting him find his place. She was wrong about whether he would find one that included us. The trouble started slowly, like rot in a floorboard. You do not see it. You just notice one day that the tile feels soft, that the door sticks, that something has changed while you were looking elsewhere. In 2014, Matthew told me we were losing the Whitmore contract. A hotel chain, 48 custom headboards, cherry, hand-carved, a job that would have paid for Helen's treatments, and then some. I had already ordered the lumber. I had already sketched the designs. Matthew said they found a supplier in Vietnam who could do the work for half her price. I said the Vietnamese supplier would use particle board and veneer. I said the Whitmore people knew the difference. Matthew said the Whitmore people did not care. They care about margins. They cared about quarterly reports. They cared about shareholders in Chicago who had never seen a dovetail joint and never would. I asked if he had fought for us, if he had shown them our work. He said, "Dad, you cannot fight math. Math always wins." I believed him. Why would I not believe my own son? In 2016, he told me the insurance premium had doubled, that the property tax assessment was up 40%, that we needed to restructure the debt on the building. I signed papers I did not read. I trusted him. He had a degree. I had a high school diploma and 40 years of calluses. He understood spreadsheets and depreciation schedules. I understood wood grain and seasonal humidity. It seemed right. It seemed like trust. In 2018, he said we should incorporate Donovan Fine Woodworking LLC. He would be managing partner. I will be silent partner. For tax purposes, Dad. For liability. You're getting older. If someone slips in the showroom, they sue the LLC, not you personally. If the business fails, your house is protected. I signed. I did not understand half the language. I understood that my son wanted to protect me. I did not understand that he wanted to protect himself from me. In 2020, he told me we were breaking even. Barely. That online retailers were killing us. That millennials wanted IKEA, not heirlooms. That custom furniture was a dying market. That people did not value craftsmanship anymore. They valued speed. They valued free shipping. He said we needed to downsize, cut staff, let go of Eddie Morales, who had been with me for 23 years and whose daughter was starting at Clemson. Let go of Sarah Chun, who could carve a dovetail joint blindfolded and who had learned English from Helen's bookkeeping lessons. I argued. I said Eddie had a family. I said Sarah was the best craftsperson I had ever trained. Matthew said, "Dad, it is math, not emotion. The market has shifted. We adapt or we die. And frankly, we are closer to dying than I have been telling you." I'll let them go. I watched Eddie clean out his locker. He did not look at me. He just folded his apron, the one with his name embroidered by his wife, and left. I watched Sarah leave without looking back. She left her chisels in a box on my bench. She said, "Mr. Donovan, those were a gift from Mrs. Donovan. I cannot take them." She said they would always belong to this shop. I told myself Matthew was right. Business was math. I was emotion. Helen would have understood. She always understood math, but she would have cried while she understood it. In 2022, Matthew bought a lake house on Lake Kiowa for bedrooms, a boat dock, a kitchen with granite counters that looked like the ones I built for the Hendersons in 2010. He said his wife Jennifer's parents helped with the down payment. I believed him. Jennifer's father was a dentist in Greenville. They had money. They had always had money. Matthew said it was a weekend retreat, a place to unwind from the stress of keeping the business alive. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, because if I did not believe him, I had to ask where the money came from, and I was not ready to ask. In 2024, he bought Jennifer a Range Rover, white, the color of a lie that has not been told yet. He said it was a lease, a write-off, part of the new marketing strategy. He said Jennifer needed a reliable car for client meetings. I did not know what clients Jennifer had. She was a yoga instructor. Her clients came to her. But I believed him, because the alternative was admitting that my son was spending money our business did not have on things our family did not need. The alternative was admitting that I had been a fool for 15 years. And I was not ready to face that. Not yet. Not while I could still smell Helen's lavender soap on a bathroom door. Not while I could still hear her voice saying, "Watch him, Arthur. Watch him close." Then, in March of this year, I found the ledger. I was looking for sandpaper. 80 grit. The workshop has a storage closet under the stairs. Old paint cans. Broken clamps. A box of Helen's things I never had the strength to sort. Her sweaters. Her reading glasses. The blue mug she drank coffee from. The scarf she wore the day we met at the county fair in 1978. Behind a stack of 2x4s, I found a green cloth-bound journal. The Woolworths label was still on the back. 1987. Price tag, $4.99. Helen's first ledger. I sat on a workshop floor and opened it. The first entry was dated January 3rd, 1987. A dining table, $1,200. Cost of materials, $420. Labor, 60 hours. Profit, $580. Helen's handwriting, neat, precise, beautiful. She had drawn a small flower in the margin. A daisy, her favorite. She drew one on every page of the first month. Then she stopped. She said it took too long, but she never stopped being precise. I turned pages. 1988, 1990, 2000. The numbers grew. The shop was successful. We were never wealthy, but we were solid, profitable, reliable, the kind of business that paid its bills and kept its promises. 2005, net profit $128,000. 2008, $156,000. 2010, $164,000. Even in the recession, we held steady. Because Helen held us steady. She found efficiencies I never understood. She negotiated with suppliers. She kept the books so clean you could eat off them. The last entry was December 31st, 2014, the year Matthew took over the books. Helen's final entry, net profit, $184,612. Best year ever. Thank you, God. Thank you, Arthur. I love this shop. I love this man. I love our son, but I worry. Watch him. I stared at that number. $184,000. In 2014, and Matthew had told me we were losing money by 2016. He had told me the Whitmore contract was the beginning of the end. He had told me Vietnam and AITA and Amazon were killing us. He had told me we were dying. I went to the filing cabinet. The one Matthew said was obsolete. He kept everything on a cloud now. Digital. Secure. Paper was for dinosaurs. I found old tax returns. Paper ones. Helen had kept them in a box labeled important, in her handwriting, with a heart dotting the I. 2014. Net income, $179,000. 2015. Net income, $192,000. 2016. Net income, $208,000. $208,000. The year Matthew said we were breaking even. The year he let Eddie and Sarah go. The year he said we were dying. The year he bought Jennifer a tennis bracelet for Christmas and told me it cost $300. My hand shook. I went back to the storage closet. I searched deeper. Behind a tarp, under a pile of scrap mahogany, I found a second ledger. A black leather book. Matthew's handwriting. Tight. Angry. I did not know he kept a handwritten record. But there it was. A parallel set of books. In Matthew's ledger, the numbers were different. 2016, net loss $43,000. 2017, net loss $61,000. 2018, net loss $89,000. 2019, net loss 112,000. The same years, two different realities. One truth, one lie, one shop, two stories. I hired a forensic accountant, Raymond Chase, a retired IRS agent who worked out of a strip mall office near the airport. He had a sign that said Chase Financial Review and a waiting room with plastic chairs and a fish tank with one goldfish named Deduction. I brought him both ledgers. Helen's green journal, Matthew's black book, the tax returns, the bank statements I had secretly requested from our business account. I did not tell Matthew. I told Raymond I wanted the truth before I decided what to do with it. Raymond worked for 3 weeks. He called me on a Tuesday at 7 in the morning. I was already in the workshop. I had not slept in 2 days. Mr. Donovan, you need to sit down. I am already sitting on Helen's stool in the workshop where I have been sitting since I found her journal. Your son has been skimming since 2009. Small amounts at first. 5,000 here, 8,000 there. Buried in consulting fees and equipment leases for companies that do not exist. By 2014, he was taking 20% off the top. By 2018, 40%. The LLC formation was a shell. He transferred ownership of the building to a holding company he controls. You do not own your own shop, Mr. Donovan. He does. And he has been paying himself a salary of $240,000 a year while telling you the business could not afford a raise for Eddie Morales. Eddie made $42,000. Your son made $240,000, and he told you there was no money. I said nothing. The workshop seemed very quiet. Even the saws were still. Even the dust motes had stopped moving. Even the wood seemed to be listening. The total, conservatively, is $2,417,000. Give or take. That does not include the lake house, which was purchased with a loan collateralized by the business, or the Range Rover, which is titled to the LLC but registered to his wife, or the business trips to Aspen and Napa, which totaled $83,000 over 4 years, or the restaurant charges, or the jewelry, or the fact that he has been paying Jennifer's credit card from the business account since 2019, or the private school tuition for his daughter, which you thought was paid by Jennifer's parents. It was not. It was paid by Donovan Fine Woodworking, by you, by Helen's legacy. $2,417,000. What do I do? I asked. That depends, Raymond said. Do you want him arrested? Or do you want her shop back? Because you can have both. But you have to choose which one you want first. And I have to tell you, Mr. Donovan, most fathers in your position choose neither. They choose silence. They choose to let the son keep stealing because the shame of admitting they were fooled is worse than the theft itself. I thought about Helen. I thought about her green journal. I thought about the night she told me, Arthur, Matthew is smart. But smart is not the same as good. Watch him. I see the way he looks at the ledger. Like it is a suggestion, not a record. I had laughed. I had said, Helen, he is our son. He is learning. She had not laughed back. She had said, some people do not learn. They just get better at hiding. I had not watched him. I had looked away. Because he was my son. Because I loved him. Because loving someone should not require auditing their soul. But Helen had known. She had always known. And she had kept the green journal hidden where Matthew would never think to look. Under the stairs. Behind the wood. Where the truth lived. Where I lived. I want my shop back, I said. And then I want him to answer for what he took. Raymond filed a civil suit. Fraud. Embezzlement. Breach of fiduciary duty. He also sent a referral to the Charleston County White-Collar Crimes Unit. The detective who took the case was a woman named Sharon Blake. She had kind eyes and a voice like gravel. She said, Mr. Donovan, I am sorry. This is going to hurt. I said, "It already hurts. It has been hurting for 15 years. I just did not know the name for it. I thought it was arthritis. I thought it was grief. I thought it was getting old. It was not. It was betrayal. And betrayal feels exactly like arthritis, except no pill fixes it." Matthew was served on a Thursday at the lake house. Jennifer answered the door in yoga pants and a sweatshirt that cost more than my monthly electricity. I know this because Sharon Blake called me afterward. She said Matthew's face went through 3 expressions in 10 seconds: denial, anger, fear. He said, "My father is senile. He does not understand modern business. He is a carpenter who thinks the world still runs on handshakes and hand tools." Sharon said she looked at the lake house, then at the Range Rover in the driveway, then at Matthew. She said, "Your father understands enough to hire a forensic accountant. That is more than most victims do. Most victims never look under the stairs. Most victims die not knowing they were robbed." The preliminary hearing was 2 weeks later. Matthew brought a lawyer, a shark from Colombia, $3,000 an hour. He smelled like cologne and desperation. He argued that the LLC structure was legal, that the loans were standard business practice, that I had signed every document willingly, that I was a grieving old man who could not accept that his business had failed and his son had tried to save it. He said I was jealous of Matthew's success. He said I resented his education. He said I was trying to punish my son for being better than me. Raymond testified. He brought charts, flow diagrams, the green journal, the black book, side by side, the same dates, 2 different realities. He said, "Your Honor, this is not a failing business. This is a successful business being bled dry by a man who told his father that Amazon was the enemy while he was the thief. This is not math. This is theft dressed in a spreadsheet. This is a son who looked at his father's calluses and saw an ATM." The judge granted an emergency injunction. The LLC was frozen. The lake house was encumbered. The Range Rover was impounded. Matthew was removed as manager of Donovan Fine Woodworking pending trial. I walked back into my shop on a Monday morning with a court order and a key I had made from the original Helen kept at her jewelry box. The lock clicked. The shop smelled like home. Eddie Morales came back. I called him. He did not ask questions. He just said, "Mr. Donovan, I have been waiting for this call for 5 years. My daughter graduated. She is a teacher now, but I have been waiting." Sarah Chun came back. She brought her chisels. She said, "Mrs. Donovan told me to keep these. She said you would need them again. She said the shop would come back to you." She knew. They did not ask about Matthew. They just picked up their tools and went to work. That is what craftsmen do. They build. They repair. They do not need spreadsheets to tell them what is real. Jennifer came to see me, Matthew's wife. She knocked on the workshop door on a Wednesday. She was not wearing yoga pants. She was wearing jeans and a sweater with a hole in the elbow. She looked like she had not slept. She said, "Mr. Donovan, I did not know. I swear I did not know. I thought his parents helped with the lake house. I thought the car was a lease. I thought the business was struggling. He told me you were old and stubborn and refused to modernize. I believed him. I am sorry." I looked at her. She was 20 years younger than Matthew. She had married him because he was confident, because he was successful, because he promised her a life without worry. She got the worry anyway, just delayed. "You did not know because you did not want to know," I said. "That is not a crime. That is marriage. But now you know. And what you do with that knowledge is up to you." She nodded. She left. I heard later that she filed for divorce. She took their daughter. She moved back to Greenville. She told her father everything. Her father, the dentist, called me. He said he was sorry. He said he had trusted Matthew. He said he had co-signed the lake house loan because Matthew told him it was an investment. I said, it was an investment. And my son's lie. You just did not know you were the investor. Matthew called me once, from a number I did not recognize. His voice was hoarse, not the voice of a man who closed deals. The voice of a man who had been closed. Dad, I can explain. You had 15 years to explain. You chose spreadsheets. You chose lake houses. You chose to tell me I was too old to understand while you stole from the business your grandfather built with a handsaw and a prayer. You chose to let Eddie go. You chose to let Sarah go. You chose to buy Jennifer a Range Rover while I was sharpening chisels I bought in 1985. The pressure, Jennifer's expectations, the house, the car, the image, the dentist father who looked at me like I was not good enough. I was drowning, Dad. You do not understand what it is like to be judged by your wife's parents, to be the son-in-law who does not measure up, to be the man who has to prove himself every single day. You were drowning in $2,400,000, Matthew. That is not drowning. That is swimming in someone else's pool while telling them the water is too cold. Eddie Morales was drowning. He had a daughter in college and a mortgage and $42,000 a year. You fired him so you could buy a boat dock. Do not talk to me about pressure. What happens now? Now I fix what you broke. The same way I fixed my first table. One joint at a time. One truth at a time. You want to know what happens? You learn to build something without stealing the lumber. You learn to measure twice and cut once. You learn that a man who steals from his father's shop is not a businessman. He is just a thief who forgot whose table he was sitting at. He cried. I listened. I am his father. That does not stop because he is a thief. But I did not forgive him. Not yet. Maybe never. Forgiveness is not a switch. It is a dovetailed joint. It takes time. It takes precision. And sometimes the wood is too damaged to hold. Sometimes you have to start over with new lumber. The criminal case is pending. The civil suit will take years. I do not care. I am in my workshop. The sawdust is thick. The oak is waiting. Helen's green journal sits on my bench, open to December 31st, 2014. Best year ever. Thank you, Arthur. I love this shop. I'm going to make this year better. Not with numbers. With wood. With work. With Eddie's hands beside mine and Sarah's chisels on the bench. With the knowledge that my father built something honest and my wife kept it honest, and I will die before I let my son sell that honesty for a lake house and a leased SUV and a wife who never knew where the money came from. My name is Arthur Donovan. I am 67. I own a woodworking shop in Charleston that my son tried to steal. I found a ledger that proved he was a liar. I hired a woman with kind eyes to arrest him. And every morning, when I unlock the front door and smell the walnut and the varnish and the history, I ask myself a question. Was I wrong to destroy my son's life to save my father's shop? Or was I right to remember that some legacies are carved in wood, not printed on bank statements, and that a man who steals from his own blood is not a businessman? He is just a thief who forgot whose table he was sitting at. Tell me in the comments.